The night shift, the city stretched out below like a constellation of amber lights, each window telling its own story. Sarah Martinez pulled her cleaning cart down the marble hallway of the 52nd floor, her footsteps echoing softly in the empty corporate building. She had never worked this high up before. Usually, she cleaned the lower floors of smaller office buildings. But tonight was different. Her friend Maria had called that morning, voice thick with worry. Her daughter had fallen sick, and she couldn't leave her alone. Could Sarah possibly cover her cleaning shift at the Hartwell Corporation? Sarah had agreed without hesitation. That's what friends did for each other now. As she pushed her cart past floor-to-ceiling windows, Sarah couldn't help but feel small in this gleaming world of glass and steel. The executive suites were nothing like the modest offices she was used to cleaning. Everything here spoke of power and success. Leather chairs that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Conference tables that could seat 20 people. Art that belonged in museums. She moved methodically from room to room, taking her time with each surface. Sarah had always believed that if something was worth doing, it was worth doing well. Her mother had taught her that. Every desk was dusted, with care. Every window was polished until it sparkled. Every wastebasket was emptied and lined with fresh bags. The silence was different up here too. Down in the lower floors, there was always the hum of traffic, the distant sound of the city waking up or going to sleep. But this, high above everything, the quiet felt almost sacred. Sarah found herself moving more carefully as if she might disturb something important. It was nearly midnight when she heard the footsteps. Sarah paused, her cloth halfway across a mahogany desk. She wasn't supposed to encounter anyone this late. The security guard had told her the building would be empty. Her heart began to beat a little faster. She quickly gathered her supplies, hoping to slip away unnoticed. But as she turned the corner, she nearly collided with a man emerging from one of the offices. "Oh," he said, stepping back with a gentle smile. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you." Sarah looked up into kind brown eyes set in a tired but handsome face. He was tall, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it, and he wore a wrinkled button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. There was something approachable about him, despite the expensive watch on his wrist and the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. "I'm the one who should apologize," Sarah said, adjusting her grip on the cleaning cart. "I didn't know anyone was still here." "Long night," he said with a rueful smile. "I'm Daniel Hartwell." "Sarah," she replied, not immediately registering the significance of his last name. "Would you like some coffee?" Daniel asked, gesturing toward his office. "I was just about to make a fresh pot. It's the least I can do for someone working so late." Sarah hesitated. She wasn't sure if accepting coffee from a stranger in an empty building was wise, but something about Daniel put her at ease. Maybe it was the genuine warmth in his voice, or the fact that he'd offered without any trace of condescension. "That would be nice," she found herself saying. His office was larger than her entire apartment, with a view that made her breath catch. Cities spread out below them like a living map, rivers of light flowing between towering buildings. Daniel busied himself with an expensive-looking coffee machine in the corner, while Sarah stood by the window, mesmerized. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, joining her with 2 steaming mugs. "I never get tired of this view, though I probably spend too much time looking at it instead of focusing on work." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee and watching the city breathe below them. Sarah noticed how the stress seemed to leave Daniel's shoulders as he gazed out at the lights. Whatever had kept him here so late was weighing on him. "What kind of work keeps you here past midnight?" Sarah asked softly. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "The kind where a lot of people depend on the decisions you make," he said finally. "Sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the weight of everyone's livelihood on my shoulders. Every choice affects someone's family, someone's future." There was something vulnerable in his voice that made Sarah's heart ache. She understood that kind of responsibility, though on a much smaller scale. Every job she took, every shift she covered, was about taking care of her own family and helping friends like Maria take care of theirs. "It sounds lonely," she said. Daniel turned to look at her, surprise flickering across his features. "It is," he admitted. "I can't remember the last time someone asked me how I was feeling instead of what I was planning to do about quarterly projections." They talked for nearly an hour. Daniel asked about her life, and Sarah found herself sharing stories about her work, her family, her dreams of maybe opening her own small business someday. He listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions, and laughing at her gentle humor. In return, he told her about the pressure of living up to expectations, about trying to balance profit with principles, about missing the simple pleasure of anonymous conversation. When Sarah finally glanced at her watch, she was shocked to see how much time had passed. "I should finish my rounds," she said reluctantly. "Of course," Daniel said, but she could hear the same reluctance in his voice. "Thank you for the coffee break. It's been refreshing." They exchanged numbers and Daniel walked her to the elevator. As the doors closed between them, Sarah felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. There had been something special about their conversation, something real in a world that often felt artificial. Over the next few weeks they texted occasionally. Daniel would send her pictures of the sunrise from his office window, and Sarah would respond with photos of interesting things she encountered during her cleaning shifts. Their conversations were light but meaningful, and Sarah found herself looking forward to each message. It wasn't until Maria returned to work and casually mentioned that the CEO of Hartwell Corporation was surprisingly down-to-earth for such a powerful man that the pieces clicked into place for Sarah. Daniel Hartwell, the CEO, the man who had shared coffee and honest conversation with her in the quiet hours of the night when Daniel asked to meet her for dinner the following weekend. Sarah almost said no. The gulf between their worlds seemed impossibly wide, but then she remembered the vulnerability in his voice that night, the way he'd listened to her stories without judgment, the genuine connection she'd felt. They met at a small restaurant downtown, nothing fancy or corporate. Over pasta and wine, they talked for hours just like that first night. Daniel told her he'd been thinking about their conversation ever since, how it had reminded him of what really mattered. Sarah admitted she'd been drawn to his honesty and kindness from the very beginning. As they walked along the waterfront afterward, the city lights reflecting on the dark water, Daniel took her hand. "I know our worlds are different," he said quietly, "but that night, when it was just us and the city below, I felt more like myself than I had in years." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Maybe different worlds can learn from each other," she said, standing there together, looking up at the tower where they'd first met. Sarah realized that sometimes the most unexpected encounters could change everything. Love, she thought, didn't care about corner offices or cleaning carts. It only cared about two hearts finding each other in the vast, glittering maze of the city.